We continue our series on abundant living. Welcome this morning again. And where we have reached is the disciplines of abundant life. And today we are starting to look at the discipline at the workplace, or the discipline of one's work life. I'm going to look at various aspects, but let me introduce it by saying that it has been recorded that there are three factors that determine good workers. It has to do with attitude, knowledge, and skills. Attitude, knowledge, and skills. And experts say that attitude alone accounts for 85% of what it requires to be a successful professional or worker. Knowledge and skills, as important as they appear, account for about 15%. I'm not going to argue about that statistics. All that I'm saying is that attitude is almost everything when it comes to work. I must say that 2 weeks ago, once I was thinking about this topic, I attended a funeral service, and the former Bishop of Accra, Right Reverend Osabute, said something at the funeral grounds when he was giving the sermon that I thought it would be a good preamble to what I'm going to say about the discipline of attitude at work. And I'm reading the same passage that he read from Colossians chapter 2, verse 22 to chapter 4, verse 1, a very short passage from the Bible. And I'm reading from the English Standard Version. And it reads, bond servants, which will be in today's church the equivalent of employees. So let me use employees. He says, employees, obey in everything those who are your earthly masters, not by way of eye service, as people pleasers, but with sincerity of heart, fearing the Lord. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. For the wrong you are will be paid back for the wrong he has done, and there is no partiality. Masters, teach your bond servants justly and fairly, knowing that you also have a master in heaven. Even though he ended with the employers, I will start with the employers, because people think that some of us are anti-workers. Well, perhaps we worked until we retired at 60 and not an employer. So let me start rather with the employers. Chapter 4, verse 1 is, employers or masters, treat your employees or bond servants justly. In other words, it is incumbent on any Christian who is an employer to make sure that he does not defraud the workers. We don't go in for a big profit and pay the minimum wage, which is not a surviving wage. We have a responsibility as employers, he says, to treat our workers justly and fairly. And God's comes because God is your master. And the way none of us, many employers will not like God to treat them the way they will treat their employees. You must respect them as human beings, give them their just due in accordance with their productivity, and create a working environment that the worker feels human, not just as a human, because there's a difference between a human being and a machine. However, since I'm talking about the disciplines of the worker, or professional. Let me go up to chapter 3, verse 22, and we will take them one by one. He says, first, workers, when God serve as employees, obey in everything those who are your earthly masters. Work is defined by employees. And sometimes one wonders whether some people who are employed think that the work is for them. They want to take the terms. And you say that there is a certain way in which when someone employs you, he is the one who sets the tone, and we are to work in accordance of that. But of course, we can do that one hypocritically. When I was learning French, there was a story of Paul Martin. One day, his employer came and says, Paul, why never I see you working when I'm coming, working hard? And you know, Paul Martin's reply, it's because you wear rubber soles. In other words, when you are coming, I don't hear you coming. You just emerge. If I knew you were coming, I would pretend to be working. The Bible says that we as workers must not work and obey instructions as men pleasers, nor do we do it as an eye service, pretending to be working. And as President before says that he does. People pretend to pray people, and others pretend to work. So we are in a situation where we employ monkeys and pay them peanuts. That is, eventually, everybody is a loser. So he says that not only are they to obey instructions and work to specifications, but they are to do so not as eye pleasers and as people pleasers. Eye service and people pleasers. But it goes on, but with sincerity of heart. Their own version says with integrity. In other words, you work in such a way that you are not ashamed when it comes to what you set out to do and what you gave. There is integrity in your service. And that also say fearing the Lord. In other words, the motivation of a Christian worker is not so much to believe the master and to work to please the Lord Jesus Christ. The reason is that you have a testimony if you are a Christian. Even Stephen Adei, let me tell you, you receive me against a worker. No, I'm more than a worker or an employer. I am a servant of the Lord, and therefore what I do reflects on the one I claim to be my Lord and my Savior. So we are not to just by way of eye service as men pleasers, but with sincerity of heart, fearing God, the Lord. Fearing here is not dread, but reverence to the Lord. That verse 23 is the most classic of all the scriptural verses about work. It was actually a quotation for Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10, with an extension. It says, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. What an attitude. Whatever you do. Many people think that it's the work that they do that defines them. But here, they are best. It's how you do your work that defines you. And you have to work heartily as serving the Lord, so that men will see our good works and give glory to our Father who is in heaven. At verse 24, saying that know that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. In other words, our work has not only temporary implications in terms of attitude, but it also is related to our Lord in heaven. What a challenging attitude for everyone who is working as a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. And our gift is a transition. Brown will say, what happens when my employers are not the best, when they are chiefs, when they are slave masters? It doesn't mean that we are not to note it and be almost passive to what they do. But verse 25 says that the wrongdoer is paying back for the wrong he has done, and there is no partiality. In other words, mark it on the wall. If you are a worker, your employer who is doing wrong will not get away with it as far as God is concerned. But that should not negate our positive attitude to work. It is after that he talks about master's duty upon servants, justly and fairly, knowing that we also have a master in heaven. In other words, what I'm saying, or rather what the Bible is saying is this: there is an attitude to work which must characterize anyone who calls himself a Christian. And I believe that in this country, if the Christians would stand up and be counted as unique workers who are obedient to the just calling and rules of their workplace, not as eye pleasers or people pleasers, but with sincerity of heart, fearing the Lord, working actively in whatever their hands finds to do, as serving the Lord, our productivity as a nation, as individual workers, will soar, and everybody will be a beneficiary. And employers are required to reciprocate in this same manner. But this is not going to happen unless there is a quantum change in attitude. And I'm talking as a Ghanaian. At this moment, the attitude of the average worker is not what we write home about. In fact, many a time as an employee, just trying to do the best that one can do, I've been told, and many good workers will bear testimony to what I'm saying. He says, is that your father's work? And your papa Duma. What a shame. In other words, your colleagues dissuade you from doing the best, and they say that it is not your father's job. And always I said, yes, it is my father's job. And in most cases, they didn't ask me, which father? Because I would work to my Father who is in heaven. Therefore, as a teacher, as an employee of Capital Investment Board, now Ghana Investment Promotion Center, as a lecturer in the University of Ghana, as a rector of the GIMPA, as a lecturer in the Pentecost University, Ashesi University, or as an employee of Commonwealth Secretariat or the United Nations. It did not matter. I am obliged to work as serving the Lord God. And by God's grace, I can challenge anybody to go to everywhere I've worked and get a testimonial about me. Even as a rector of Gilbert, someone had to say that even your enemies acknowledge that nobody can find anything about their work. It is important. You cannot go into a job place and say that it is abandonment, and that has been extended to everybody. In other words, it's not only government work, but employees. The sad part of it, as I talk to employees in the wild, is this: they tell me that one of the biggest challenges in the workplace, in what you take low productivity aside, is the tendency of people to steal whatever is stealable. And we have even a saying that says that, everybody eats where he works. And by that we mean that they are not talking about their salary. It's what else you get for it. So politicians are stealing money, civil servants are getting away. If they can, will get as much as possible for the government, whether it is through fictitious means or outright bribery and corruption. You put somebody to go for taxes and we are not sure whether the valuation is the right one, and on and on and on. Listen, we are shooting ourselves as an evil in the foot because we cannot steal from an unenlarged cake and the national income remains small. We can only just one people take a bigger share, they impoverish others. Whilst when we all work to increase the cake, we can all grow and get better. This abundant mentality should stop. As a result, and I want to repeat it, Ghana has one of the lowest productivity per head in the world. And that is an indictment on everybody. It's not an indictment on the workers only. It means that the environment that we work in, for example, people are talking about a 24-hour economy. The question is that even if we were producing 8 hours to our full capacity, we shouldn't be where we are today. Of course, even when I take which will reach our capacity in the 8 hours, we can go to 16 hours and 8 hours. But when we have moves off or so, whichever you look, wherever you look at it, when it takes 6 hours on the average to move from Accra to Kumasi, only 250 kilometers, when the cost of doing business is so high, then we are likely to find productivity low. When electricity is not there, water and the rest. So it is not an indictment for the workers. It is a reality. When the workers' attitude, we are stealing, they are in abandonment mentality, is a basic factor also in the low productivity. I must confess that oftentimes there is poor management, not so much in the private sector as in the public sector, because of a situation whereby you have given almost all authority to the president to appoint everybody else, and invariably, most of the state enterprises are held by political appointees, not technical appointees. We as a nation will not go further or far, unless we stop the idea of the president appointing the CEO and appoints the board simultaneously. We think that the CEO is the answerable to the board. No. In fact, the CEO has a direct, oftentimes, connection to the top, politically or otherwise, and therefore, most boards are incapacitated because one of the responsibilities of the board is appointing the executives and holding them accountable. So we must, as a nation, government, employees, and employees, change our attitude. And unless we use it, we are going in circles. However, I like talking about two individuals. I am of the opinion that no individual worker can hold the government or employer or anybody else responsible for their attitude today. You yourself, you have a name, you have some integrity to protect. And you cannot say that, that's what they do me. For example, I've heard people say, we are paid small. My reply to that, the thing is here come when you forced to be there. No, once you accept work, I believe that you have the responsibility to do your best. And purpose invariably, if you do, your conditions of service will improve. After all, why is that when you get a job, that's the time you need your money most, but they wait until the end of the month before they pay you? The lesson is that pay follows productivity and not the other way down. I believe that your attitude to work will affect your productivity, and then it will affect your self-worth, because you will be defined by the work you do. The Bible says, we live a life as Christians that our work will bring glory to our Father who is in heaven. Work attitude is important. But me, when I see someone with good work ethic comes to work on time, putting a day's work for the day's wage, make sure that they have an excellent mentality, that their work must define them, and it must define them in good church. I believe that such a person will rise in authority in their profession, because you are not bound to be in your profession, but wherever they are. I like the two words when it comes to work: tenacity and grit. The willingness to pursue until you get to the final destination where you want to be, and excellent skill. Let me continue this session by saying this. Especially if you are Christian out there, as a worker, God expects from you nothing short of a positive attitude to work, working as glorifying God, even if your employer is not the best, because you have a charge to account for your own work and activity. But if you are an employer, then remember, God expects you to make sure that the laborer deserves his wages, and that is in freedom and fairly, harshly, and underpaid, you will be accountable to God. And here, the minimum wage should not be the standard of any Christian worker, because the minimum wage is not sufficient for every Ghanaian to live on. It's a question of you employ people and pay to them what they need as respectable employees. We will continue with this, but I thought that today I will deal with the attitude, because attitude is almost everything. Shalom and the Lord be with you. We will read again and continue with bondage skills and how we can discipline ourselves as workers so that our work will be a testimony about ourselves. See you next week again. We are on FM 101.9. It meets every week at 8 a.m. and also on YouTube and other media. You are therefore you need to see all the other channels, and I wish that you will be blessed by what we share week after week. Thank you.